So we're back on the road with Newcastle United, heading down to the Capital 4. That clash against Fulham. Central Station already packed now, just coming up to 7 AM, and plenty of trains heading south for that big clash at Craven Cottage. We'll be bringing you all the coverage from the Capital today. Just a little bit of chat before we jump on the train. Basically, yesterday Eddie Howe in his press conference, he was asked a few questions about whether Newcastle can stay at that business end of the table. I asked him, could they challenge for the title this season? Didn't ask him if they could win it. I said, can they challenge? I didn't want to get too drawn into that. He just said, look, it's nice to be up there, but at the end of the day, there's still a long way to go. It's early. Typical Eddie Howe, really. Was never going to build up anything too much. He knows that this season is going to be a case of improving on last year. Yes, they are looking at those Champions League positions and trying to get back in, but can the gate crash the party in terms of the title with all these European games that are going on left, right and centre? We'll have to wait and see. Today is pivotal. If they are going to do that, they can go top of the table for a brief time. If they beat Fulham today, let's see what they can do. Well, we're outside Craven Cottage. This is definitely one of the more unique grounds in the Premier League. As you can see, very traditional on the streets of Fulham and Hammersmith. Here, quick look at the stadium, really looking good. One of the more traditional places, as I say. Newcastle have a good record here. They'll be looking to win for the third consecutive time. Won 4-1 here 2 seasons ago. Won in the FA Cup here last season and then scraped a 1-0 win in the Premier League. Huge day in prospect for Newcastle. They know they can go top of the table if they can beat Fulham here at Craven Cottage. So we've made it inside Craven Cottage and just going to have a quick look around here, give you an insight of the pitch. We're all set here in the press box, got a programme all ready for today's game. Let's just have a quick look and see what this pitch is looking like. Please. So disappointing for Newcastle United here at Fulham. A game that don't think anyone will be rushing to watch on Match of the Day. Football first later. Where do Newcastle go from here? I mean, it's not the end of the world. I think we've been here before with Newcastle United. We know that ultimately they bounced back from defeats. There haven't been many under Eddie Howe, but I think today they were just so sloppy and lethargic in the first 22 minutes that Fulham had a field day really. And I think the game was moving on to half time. Fulham had 4 yellow cards, and you could look at it as ill discipline, or you could look at it as a team committed. Typical Marco Silva team, getting stuck in and getting in the face of the opposition. Thought this was a real opportunity for Newcastle today to go top of the league. Not taken. Maybe it could be a blessing in disguise in some ways. The fact that we can't get carried away. Eddie Howe talked about it. He talked about how things can be exaggerated, things can be overblown at this stage of the season, and that can go either way. So I suppose you've got to take something from that. Had Newcastle been top, they weren't exactly champions-elect, and the fact they've been beaten here by a Fulham team who finished 13th, I think, last season, certainly in the bottom half, shows there's work to be done. And I think that game against Wimbledon now, it was always important that Newcastle stay in the cup. They've got to be favourites going out to Wimbledon, but hey, if they start like they did here for the first 20 minutes, then it's going to be a long night potentially. But no, I've got to be more positive than that and think that Newcastle can get through. But look, I think this is probably a little bit of a wake-up call for Newcastle United. I think they'll feel that they let the fans down a little bit in terms of that first 20 minutes. Second half was much better. I mean, when Harvey Barnes scores after 30 seconds, it's a different game. We've heard it before. 2-0 is one of the most dangerous scorelines in football. And when Harvey Barnes pulls it back to 2-1, then anything can happen. But Newcastle, despite overcommitting, despite going for goal, he just couldn't get that equaliser. The Fabian Schär moment where he goes to, does it catch him by surprise? I need to look back at it a bit more myself. Either way, probably should have squared it, and it's an easy goal for Isak. Isak didn't get a lot of service today. That was a big letdown. So, huge things to work on for Newcastle. I think they'll leave here today feeling down, but things to repair, things to fix, and hopefully it can be a big week, a positive week. But today, perhaps, maybe it was in the post. A few people have said that Newcastle in the first 4 games of the season were very fortunate to be unbeaten, very fortunate to win some of them games. But this today was a fair reflection on what happened on that pitch just there. Newcastle was second best for large periods, couldn't get the equaliser, and then a mistake at the end from Bruno allows Fulham to make it 3-1. So yeah, disappointing. I'm sure they'll I think the fans probably will be a bit concerned. Don't know if there is concerns about what's happening above Newcastle with Sporting Director Paul Mitchell here again today, but I think it's a sticky spot for Newcastle now, and they've got to move on from it. And the best way to do that is by getting through against Wimbledon and trying to get something against Manchester City. But disappointing here today. Probably one of the worst performances, certainly of this season, but one of the worst performances of probably Eddie Howe's reign as manager of Newcastle. There haven't been many bad days, don't get me wrong, but this was certainly one of them, and one that they must move on from quickly.